And a lot of Creative's work has been with communities in transition. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the most innovative or surprising examples of how focusing on women in communities in transition excuse me, has contributed directly to the effectiveness of some of those programs?
If I think of success on that, our success on that issue is that both our young women professionals in the United States, and many of them were very young, extraordinarily competent and efficient and eager to succeed, they were quite frequently key team members of the process. And so that the professionalism that we sent in that immediate response process included women. That, I think, is part of the equation that sometimes we don't talk about. But if there were women in their mid-late 20s, early 30s, who maybe in other settings they might at that time might not have had the opportunity to be in the cusp of the process, communities in transition a lot, because some of the skills require that, and it also required a little bit of bravado. You had to be there working in the midst of the conflict, or at least the fog. And some of the young women were just terrific. There still are.
What difference does that make for a community to see, that some of the first people on the ground to support them are women leaders?
You model and you care. The issue of demonstrating that in the midst of the immediate process of transition, that all the population will be supported through the transition. That's a critical component that I think is important. The other one is that we always figure out ways of identifying both formal and informal leaders. And when in those developing areas after the conflict might not have been quite frequently formal leaders that were females, the informal leadership was always there. So identifying the informal leadership and working through that, either through committees or a different consensus process, and making them not only take the responsibility for the expression of the needs of the community, but also hiring them. We have to hire quite frequently, nationals or locals, so be sure that we identify. So that was always part of our scope and our makeup. Sometimes going in areas where the conflict has been so devastating and has been so much part of their lives for years and years, we were confronted with issues of humanity, not so much with female and male. And so bringing them together and putting both not only to work but to envision a better world for themselves. One of the things that we always find is that the first thing that communities ask for right after the conflict is safety. And so redefining safety by being inclusive of the personal safety of women is as critical as just being sure that everybody has the right kind of ammunition.
Right.
So that was something critical to us. Is in some of those places, rape has been used as a weapon. So the wounds and the pains that are part of their lives, they need to be addressed. And so we always included all those issues, and we brought some skills that are necessary. It's not just a good heart. The skill that is necessary to work with a community that has been devastated or corroded and the fear needs to be transferred into trust, and so building temporary systems of trust, in which males and females are needed for the building back of a community is critical.